Okay, great. Thank you for that introduction.
Sure.
Okay, so now we're here in Tucson for the 40th
Yes.
anniversary of the Mankind Project. What's coming up for you with that?
Well, I think the greatest joy so far is to see so many men I haven't seen in decades. There's men here that I haven't seen since the 1990s, and some are here from my home group in Pennsylvania, so I'm with them. And the memories of the early years coming back in floods of joy and a celebration that we were early on. I guess I consider myself an earlier, you know, I don't know, early pioneer, you know, one of the early ones. And OG, I guess I am now at age 70. But seeing Bill Kalf last night, Bill was actually on my weekend in November '91. And Ron Herring was on my weekend in November 1991. And so seeing Bill last night and Rich Tosi, just seeing some of the early folks just was a real gift. That we have lived much of our life since 1991. I, for one, have been, I'm 70, so I guess it's almost 35 years ago that I went through. So half of my life, you know, has been as a result of what I did at that weekend. And I never forgot it, of course.
Amazing. So how has MKP impacted your life in various
Well, I think
relationships or work or whatever?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest impacts was one of my favorite phrases at the end of the week. I believe it was on Sunday morning when we kind of re-entered the group as our numbers were discarded and we came back with our name or our spirit names. That the phrase was, "as a man among men." You know, having had Ron Herring provide the gift on that Sunday morning, that was his gift. I don't know if you ever met Ron, but he was a very gifted facilitator and storyteller. And I think the phrase was, there was something called neuro-linguistic programming, which is there, it's not like hypnosis, but during that altered state of the music and the energy and the celebration, I know what my anchor was. I know that I was told to put.
One second. Rich, right? Okay. Come on in. There's a chair here. If you guys want to go up into the lobby, I can come up and grab you afterward. No? You want to hang here? There's just not that many. You can please take this chair.
I'll just take
and yeah, thanks for your patience. We had some. Sorry? Yeah, you can go. I don't know if the theater's open. There's restrooms there.
I guess you'll do some editing on it.
Yeah.
No, so can we just continue?
Please.
No, so during the gift, when Ron was giving that gift, I just never forgot that the altered state that I actually was in, I don't know if they have a term for it, but when there was an anchor given to us to remember the gift that we got. I remember putting my hand through my hair like this. And it's almost like a hypnotic state that once that motion is done, I remember the feelings, the energy, the new awareness of. It almost seemed as if my consciousness was being transformed.
Perfect. I was waiting for a spot.
Okay. No, it all.
Let's let the door close. Consciousness.
No, I think that's part of what I realized, and it maybe wasn't for years afterwards until I started to actualize that mission. You know, I think that was one of the biggest gifts, the articulating part of why I was here on the earth, what my mission was and is. So, my mission was to lighten the world through play. I used to actually have a job teaching teenagers and working with them as a counselor, and you know, they were coming from a lot of troubled pasts. So I always believed the value of play and humor was one of the best balms healing that there is. So yeah, that's probably, you know, I went through the training 1991, so it wasn't until maybe 8 years later in 1999 that I left my corporate job and and went out on my own and started my own nonprofit. And I think a lot of that stems back from the belief in myself that I had germinated in the training and with the men in my I group. I think the I group was one of the most powerful things. I think anybody can do a weekend. You know, a weekend is an experience. The living it in a denser way year after year through a group of men that support and have been through a similar experience is what makes it all the more powerful. And over the last 35 years, I've been in and out of various I groups. Now I've been in another one for the last 5 years, I guess. So, and some of those men are here this weekend sharing this experience. So that's been a real fun thing.
Amazing. Oh, and last question, what do you, is MKP still relevant today and why? Kind of what do you foresee the need still is today, and being more of a global organization?
Yeah.
Maybe how this is, in your own words, if this is works for you, like kind of the universal connection, or this work is maybe for all men. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Not everyone's ready for that, but.
Well, I think it's extremely relevant for today. For perhaps.
Say I think MKP.
Yeah, I think MKP today is even more relevant than it's ever been, because I think now, you know, the human experience is always going to be chasing the next technological advance. You know, now as we live into this world of artificial intelligence, there's children today that are depending on their connection to an AI robot for companionship. So we don't even know the dangers of having that kind of human being evolve that is sharing their most deepest, darkest secrets with the robot. And I think that that the growth of the New Warrior Network and the Mankind Project is indicative that it's an evolutionary process that we're going through. I really believe that. And I think that, I guess it was Robert Moore who said something along the line, I don't know exact quote, that the initiation rites that had been around for eons and centuries, especially for, I think, the Western world, that this is the next best thing that the world could need. So I'm really proud to be part of it and living that mission.
Awesome. Amazing. Anything else you want to add briefly?
Yeah, I do. I just realized today, I don't usually think of it every year, this anniversary, but 39 years ago this morning, my brother was killed. And that was 5 years before I went through the weekend. And I think that I can draw a straight line from the grief that I experienced to the gift of New Warrior, because as I watched my father grieve without crying, he was German, Pennsylvania Dutch German Mennonite, grew up not learning how to emote or kind of share feelings. And I just realized that this morning when I woke up, that it's the anniversary today that my brother was killed in a car crash. And 5 years later, I'm sure, I know that what I did on that carpet, the release and the depth of the grief that I experienced, it was about, you know, my childhood and some of the mother stuff, but the ability to grieve. I mean, Robert Bly taught us a long time ago that men carry grief, unexpressed grief that turns into violence. That the energy of what men have done, mostly in their wars or their own aggression, that unless there's a place to discharge it and transform it into something positive, that it ends up hurting a lot of other people. So I think that today, in a way, is an anniversary of that death, but also an anniversary of the awareness that the work for me, in a way, is life-saving. You know, in a way, you know, saved my life, to be able to experience life and cry. And what I learned about the grieving process is just that I cannot, there's a direct correlation between the depth of one's grief and the height of their joy, that there's no space for joy unless it's emptied out from letting go of pain and suffering and grief. And the New Warrior experience helped me learn that was all positive. I learned from my father that men don't cry, as so many of us have. And last thing I want to share is that my dad passed a few years ago, and I remember saying to him that, I never saw you cry. And we were talking about Jimmy, my brother. I said, Dad, I never saw you cry. And he just looked at me, he said, son, you have no idea. I think what he was telling me is he didn't know that it was okay to cry in front of my mom, his wife, and his sons. And I think he might have had some regret about that. He always seemed a bit bothered by me that I was too feelings or too sensitive. But I think he understood that too on his last breath, that, it's okay to cry. So anyway, I didn't expect to share this in this way today, but appreciate it. I don't think there's any coincidences that I'm sitting here talking about this on this anniversary of my brother's death.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.